All right, let's dive right into digital literacy. It's something that we've been getting a lot of questions about from you all, and it's really, really crucial these days, especially for people who are, well, learning, right?
Right.
And we've got a ton of great sources for this deep dive. We've got experts, educators who are like right there on the front lines. We've got research that's showing where the skill gaps are and how those are impacting people.
Yeah.
We've even got some really amazing stories about how digital literacy is changing lives. So,
Yeah. It's incredible to see how this definition of digital literacy has just exploded.
yeah,
It's not just about knowing how to turn on a computer anymore.
right.
It's so much more about really being comfortable in the digital world.
Yeah.
Being able to evaluate all the information that's coming at you and being able to create your own stuff.
Yeah. And speaking of like the basics, one of our sources talked about this idea of zero literacy.
Oh, interesting.
And it really resonated with me. It's like, those skills that we kind of take for granted, but they're the foundation.
Yeah. Right. For everything else. So just think about it. Turning on a device, figuring out the menus, connecting to Wi-Fi. For some people, that's a huge hurdle.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And building on that, you have like using everyday software,
Yeah.
like word processing and spreadsheets and presentation software. I mean, these are the tools that we use to share ideas, analyze data, present our work professionally. I mean, if you don't have those skills, participating in a lot of the things that we do today is really difficult.
Yeah. And what's funny is even things like email and messaging, our sources are saying that those fall under that zero literacy umbrella too.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, for us, it's like second nature, right? But for someone who, say, maybe didn't grow up with computers, maybe it's an older adult,
Yeah.
those are new skills that they need to learn.
And it's not just about like the actual like buttons to push and things. It's about understanding like how to communicate well online. Like what's the right tone to use?
The etiquette.
Yeah, the etiquette.
Exactly. How do you write clearly and get your point across? Yeah.
Those are skills that can really impact someone's life,
Yeah.
How they connect with people, relationships, their career, all of that.
Definitely. So we've talked about the foundation, that zero literacy.
Hmm.
What about some of those higher level digital literacy skills that people need today? Our sources had a bunch of different categories.
Yeah, one that's so important these days is information literacy.
Okay.
We are just bombarded with information constantly online. So you've got to be able to know, okay, what's a good source? What's biased?
Right.
Can I trust this? Especially in the age of like deep fakes, where it's getting harder and harder to know what's real.
Yeah, and one of our sources talked about a classroom activity
Oh, cool.
where the students had to evaluate information about these scholarship candidates. And one candidate had all these amazing recommendations. It looked so good.
Wow.
But then they dug a little deeper, looked at the candidate's social media, and it was a whole different story.
Okay. It was a really great lesson in like not taking everything at face value.
Yeah, exactly. Information literacy is not just about finding the information. It's understanding, okay, where's this coming from? What might be their biases? What are their motivations? And those are critical thinking skills, and you need those to really navigate the digital world well, to make good decisions.
Totally. Our sources also talked about communication and collaboration using all the digital tools we have.
Right, which is way more than just knowing how to send an email or post on Facebook. It's about doing those things well, doing them respectfully.
Right.
In the different online spaces that we're in.
Yeah, and there are so many nuances, like when is it okay to use an emoji?
Exactly.
Like what kind of language are you using?
Right.
It's different from like talking to your friends than it is a professional setting.
Totally different. And then there's the whole collaboration piece too,
Right. Yeah.
working on projects together, using online tools.
Google Docs, all of that.
Yeah.
There's a great example of one of our sources. This teacher was talking about how she had to help one of her colleagues
Oh, wow.
buy their first smartphone
Really?
and then like walk them through setting it up, using different apps. It just shows that even among educators, there's such a range of digital literacy.
Absolutely.
So it's definitely something we need to focus on.
Yeah. And that leads right into another really important category, online safety and security.
Right.
I mean, it's so important these days to know how to protect your information, how to spot those phishing scams,
Right.
how to manage your time online, all of that. And it's more than just knowing how to use antivirus software or something. It's about, again, that critical thinking, knowing, okay, this looks a little fishy. I'm not going to click on that.
Nope.
Making good choices about what you share online.
Yeah, one of our sources mentioned this growing concern about deepfakes.
Oh, yeah.
Which are these like videos that look incredibly real, but They're totally fabricated. They can be used to spread all kinds of misinformation.
Totally.
And you really have to be careful.
That's where that digital literacy really overlaps with media literacy, like being able to question what you see, check it against other sources,
Right.
and not just believe everything you see online because so much of it can be manipulated.
It's tricky.
Yeah.
So we've got information literacy, communication, safety, and security. All of these are kind of leading to, I think, one of the most exciting things about digital literacy, which is
What?
problem solving.
Ah, yeah.
It's not just about like knowing the stuff and having the tools. It's about like what can you do with it?
Yeah.
How can you make a difference?
Absolutely. It's about empowering people to use those skills to solve real-world problems in their communities and in their lives. Like, there's this incredible story about a student in Rwanda who learned how to code and then created an app that actually, like, made it so much easier for people to schedule medical appointments in her community. And she was using that digital literacy to make a real difference, not just for herself, but for everybody.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's just one example, right?
Oh, there are tons.
Like you see young people starting businesses online. They're advocating for causes they care about.
Right.
They're connecting with people all over the world.
It's really inspiring.
Yeah. But, all of this, it's important to remember that not everyone has the same access to these resources and opportunities.
Right.
And that brings us to this issue of the digital divide,
Yeah.
which is really a critical challenge.
Absolutely. And it's a really complex issue. It's not just about, like, do you have internet access or not? It's
No.
about, do you have devices? Do you have the training you need? Are there good policies in place to support digital literacy?
And some of the stats from our sources are pretty eye-opening.
Yeah.
Like even in developed countries like the UK, there's a huge chunk of adults who don't have those basic digital skills.
Right.
And that impacts their ability to get a job, to access services, to connect with people.
Totally. And then you think about communities that are already marginalized. People in rural areas, older adults, people with disabilities. They're the ones who are often left behind.
One of the stories that really stuck with me was about this teacher who had to bring her entire computer setup to school every single night because the school didn't have enough resources to provide her with what she needed for her classroom.
Oh my gosh.
It just shows you the gap that's out there.
That is incredible. And it's so inspiring to see those teachers who are just going above and beyond. But it also makes it so clear that we need to invest more in digital infrastructure, in training for teachers, and make sure that everyone has access to technology and those resources.
Yeah. So how do we bridge this gap, right? How do we make sure that everyone has a chance to develop these essential digital literacy skills?
Well, our sources had a few ideas. One was to really focus on maximizing the resources that are already available.
All right, so making the most of what you've got.
Exactly. So maybe a school finds creative ways to use the tech they already have.
Right.
Or a community center sets up some workshops using donated computers or something.
Yeah, I like that. Especially when funding is tight. Like, get creative.
Exactly. And even just adapting the ways we already teach. Like, can you incorporate digital tools into your lesson plans? Can you encourage students to use online resources for their research?
Yeah.
It's about weaving digital literacy into everything we do, not just making it a separate subject.
Right. And our sources also talked about peer-to-peer learning.
Oh, which is so powerful.
Yeah. Especially for people who might be intimidated by technology, right?
Yeah.
Having someone they trust, a friend, a classmate, a family member, just to guide them through it can be so helpful.
Totally. You know, another key strategy is to really advocate for more funding and support for digital literacy programs. And that could be anything from talking to your local community leaders to contacting your representatives and saying, hey, this is important. We need to prioritize this. Like, make sure that digital literacy is on the agenda,
Absolutely. And of course, teachers are key here.
Oh, absolutely crucial.
Our sources were very clear about the need for professional development opportunities for educators.
We need to give them the skills and the confidence to bring digital literacy into their classrooms.
Right.
And it's not just about knowing how to use specific software or tools.
Right.
It's about understanding how to teach those higher order thinking skills in a digital environment. Critical thinking, creativity, problem solving.
Mhm.
And one source talked about the importance of creating a really supportive environment for teachers
Okay.
when it comes to digital literacy. Like, they don't need to feel like they have to be experts in every single new thing that comes out.
Right.
They need to be able to experiment, to make mistakes, to learn alongside their students.
I love that.
It's about building that culture of collaboration and shared learning. When teachers feel supported, they're more likely to embrace new things and find innovative ways to teach digital literacy.
Absolutely. And parents and families, they play a huge role too, right?
Oh, for sure.
They can really shape how kids feel about technology, how
Right.
they develop those skills.
Totally. They can be good digital role models. They can set limits on screen time, encourage the use of technology for learning and creative things.
Right.
They can even learn alongside their kids.
That's great.
It's about creating that home environment where digital literacy is valued and nurtured.
One of our sources actually suggests that parents reach out to their kids' teachers
Yeah.
and
Oh, interesting.
ask them, hey, how can I help? How can I support my child's digital literacy?
I love that idea, that collaboration between home and school.
Yeah. It's so beneficial when everyone's working together, right?
Absolutely. When everyone's on the same page, it makes a world of difference for the students.
So we've talked a lot about where we are now with digital literacy, but the digital landscape is changing so fast. I mean, what are some of the things on the horizon that we need to be thinking about? Like, how is all of this going to shape the future of learning?
Well, one thing that's already having a huge impact is artificial intelligence.
AI.
Yeah, it's changing everything. How we search for information, how we communicate.
It's incredible.
It really is. And I think it has the potential to personalize learning, to give students real-time feedback, to translate languages, to make education more accessible to everyone.
Yeah, and it's like you think about these AI-powered tutors that can adapt to each student's needs.
Right.
Or like virtual reality experiences that can take you anywhere in the world or any time in history.
Oh, wow.
It's like science fiction, but it's becoming reality.
It is, and it's so important for educators to stay up on this, to figure out how to use it well, but of course, being mindful of those ethical considerations too.
Right.
We want to make sure that AI is used responsibly and ethically. It should enhance what we do, not replace human connection.
Definitely. And then there's all the buzz about the metaverse.
Oh, yeah, the
It's
metaverse.
a little bit like, what is that exactly?
I know, it's still kind of a fuzzy concept.
But the idea is like these immersive digital environments where you can interact with people, play games, go to events,
Right.
even do business.
It's still early, but it has the potential to really change how we learn and work and socialize.
And what does that mean for digital literacy? Like, do we need new skills to navigate this metaverse? How do we make sure it's inclusive? It brings up a lot of questions.
It does. I think digital literacy in the metaverse is probably going to involve a lot of the skills we already talked about, critical thinking, being safe online. But then also there will be new things to learn, like how do you navigate these virtual environments? How do you interact with avatars? How do you understand what all this virtual reality and augmented reality stuff means?
Yeah. And what about digital citizenship in the metaverse? It seems like it would be even more important in these immersive spaces.
Absolutely. As we move into these more immersive and interconnected spaces, those principles of digital citizenship are crucial. Respect, empathy, responsibility, critical thinking.
It's all connected.
It is. We have to think carefully about how we design these spaces and how we behave in them. We want to make sure they're inclusive and equitable and safe for everybody.
Yeah. It's clear that the future of digital literacy is going to be really exciting, but also a little bit unpredictable.
Oh, for sure.
There are definitely challenges ahead,
Mm-hmm.
but one thing that seems certain is that the skills we've been talking about, the mindset of digital literacy, those are going to be essential for anyone who wants to thrive in this digital world that's constantly changing.
Absolutely. It's not just about keeping up with the technology. It's about having those foundational skills, that critical thinking, that ability to adapt and learn new things.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's not just about the tech, right?
That's right.
It's about people.
It is. It's about empowering people, building communities, and using all of this incredible technology to make the world a better place.
And that's what we'll continue to explore in part 2 of this deep dive, so stay tuned.
Yeah, there's so much more to come. So, we were talking about bridging that digital divide, and
Yeah.
our sources actually had some really practical strategies for promoting digital literacy. Like, how do we actually tackle these challenges?
Yeah, let's get into that. I'm really curious about, like, what can people do on a smaller scale? Maybe even as individuals.
Yeah, well, one thing that kept coming up was this idea of maximizing existing resources.
Okay,
Instead of always thinking we need something new, what if we just got creative with what we've already got?
right.
Like maybe a school could find a way to use those old laptops in the back of the storage closet,
Yeah.
or a community center could do a computer skills workshop using like donated tablets or something.
Yeah, I like that. But, budgets are tight these days.
Exactly. It's about being resourceful.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing is just like adapting how we already teach.
Okay.
Can you tweak those lesson plans to bring in some digital tools? Can you encourage students to use online resources for their research?
Yeah.
It's about making it part of everything, not just a separate class you take.
Right, integrating it.
Yeah.
And our sources also talked a lot about the power of peer-to-peer learning.
Oh, I love that. It can be so effective, especially for people who are like a little intimidated by technology.
Yeah.
Just having someone, a friend or classmate to kind of walk you through it can make a world of difference.
Yeah, it takes away some of that fear. Our sources also really stress the importance of advocating for more funding and support for these digital literacy initiatives.
Yes. And that can look like so many different things. It could be talking to your local school board,
Hmm.
writing to your elected officials, just raising awareness in your community, like making sure that people understand how crucial this is.
Yeah, because it often gets overlooked. It's like
Mhm.
everyone's focused on the latest gadget or whatever, but
Right, but it's these foundational skills that really make a difference.
and we can't forget about the teachers.
Oh, of course not. They're the front lines.
Our sources were very clear about the need for good professional development to help teachers bring digital literacy into their classrooms.
Exactly, because we need to give teachers the tools and the confidence, not just to use the tech themselves,
Mhm.
but to teach those higher level digital literacy skills. Like, how do you foster critical thinking in a digital space? How do you encourage creativity?
Right. It's more than just using the tech. It's thinking about how it changes the whole learning process.
Exactly. And one of the things that came up was the importance of having a supportive environment for teachers when it comes to digital literacy.
Okay, what does that mean?
Like, instead of expecting them to be experts on everything new that comes out,
Mm.
giving them the space to experiment, to try things, to maybe even mess up a little bit and learn from it.
Yeah, not being afraid to try new things.
Exactly. Because when teachers feel supported,
Hmm.
they're more likely to be innovative and find cool new ways to teach these skills.
Absolutely. And families are a big part of this too, right?
Oh, for sure. Parents and caregivers play such a huge role in shaping how kids think about technology.
Hmm.
They can set good examples, they can set limits on screen time, they can encourage using tech for learning and creative things.
Right.
They can even just learn alongside their kids.
Yeah, and one of the sources actually suggests that parents talk to their kids' teachers
Oh, interesting.
and just say, like, hey, what happened to digital literacy at school? How can I support what you're doing at home?
I love that, having that open communication between home and school, because when everyone's working together, it just makes such a difference.
Okay, so we've talked about kind of the current state of digital literacy, but things are changing so fast, right?
My gosh, yes.
Like, what are some of the things on the horizon that we need to be thinking about? What's the future of digital literacy going to look like?
Well, one thing that's already changing the game is artificial intelligence.
AI.
Yeah, it's impacting how we search for information, how we communicate.
It's everywhere.
It is, and I think it has the potential to make learning more personalized,
Mm-hmm.
to give students that real-time feedback, to even translate languages. Imagine making education accessible to anyone, anywhere.
Yeah, and you think about AI tutors that can tailor lessons to each student's needs,
Right.
or those immersive VR experiences that can take you anywhere in the world or any time in history.
It's amazing. It's like science fiction coming to life.
It is, and it's exciting, but also a little daunting, right? Like, how do we as educators keep up with all of this?
It is a lot. I think it's important to stay informed about the developments, to experiment, to see how we can use these tools in the classroom, but always with those ethical considerations in mind.
Right, we want to make sure we're using AI responsibly.
Absolutely. It should enhance what we do, not replace human interaction.
Definitely. And then there's all this buzz about the metaverse.
Oh, yeah, the
I
metaverse.
feel like everyone's talking about it, but I'm still not sure I totally get it.
I know, it's still kind of this abstract
Like,
concept.
is it just a fancy video game?
It's more than that. The idea is that it's this immersive digital environment where you can do all sorts of things. You can interact with people, play games, go to events,
Mhm.
even work or do
Like
business.
a whole other world online.
Exactly. And it's still early days, but it has the potential to really change how we live and learn and work.
And what does that mean for digital literacy? Like, will we need a whole new set of skills to navigate the metaverse?
I think it's going to be a blend of familiar skills and new ones. Like critical thinking is still going to be crucial, so
Hmm.
is being safe online. But then you'll also need to learn how to navigate these virtual environments, how to interact with avatars, and it'll be interesting to see how all of this plays out in terms of digital citizenship.
Yeah, because the rules of engagement might be different in the metaverse, right?
Exactly. As we move into these more immersive and interconnected spaces, those ideas of respect, empathy, responsibility, critical thinking, they become even more important. We need to be thoughtful about how we design these spaces and how we behave in them.
It's like we're building a new society online. So it's exciting, it's a little bit scary,
Yeah.
but it's definitely something we need to be talking about.
Absolutely. The future of digital literacy is full of unknowns, but the skills and the mindset we've been talking about, those are going to be essential for anyone who wants to thrive in this digital world.
It strikes me, thinking about all of this stuff with AI and the metaverse, it's not just about, like, the skills, right? It's like a whole way of thinking about the world.
Oh, absolutely. It's a mindset of lifelong learning, being open to new things, trying new things, being able to adapt because things are changing so quickly.
Yeah. And just being curious, like that sense of wonder about what's possible, what's out there, and not just accepting everything you see, but like questioning, digging deeper.
Right. And I think one of our sources put it really well. They talked about digital literacy as a form of empowerment.
Oh, I like that.
It's about giving people the tools, not just to navigate this digital world, but to shape it.
To have a voice.
Exactly, to
Yeah.
make a difference. And I think that's especially important for young people. They're growing up surrounded by technology. They
Yeah.
need to feel like they have some control over it, that they can use it to do amazing things, not just be passive consumers.
And that brings us back to that idea of digital citizenship, right?
Always.
It's like the foundation of all of this. Being respectful online, being responsible, thinking about how your actions impact others.
It's about creating this like digital world where everyone feels safe and respected and they can participate fully because it's not just about the individual, right? It's about the community. It's about building something better together.
Yeah, one of our sources had this really interesting analogy. They were talking about the digital world as like a big city.
Oh, I like that.
And just like in a city, there are rules, there's etiquette,
Right.
there are ways of behaving. You have to be aware of your surroundings,
Mm.
you know? Be careful about who you trust.
And be aware of the dangers too.
Yeah, just like in a city. And it's about being a good citizen, right? Contributing to making that online space a good place to be.
Exactly. It's about creating something that's positive and productive and benefits everyone.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into digital literacy,
Hmm.
it feels like we've just scratched the surface. There's so much to explore here.
Oh, definitely. And I think the biggest takeaway for me is that digital literacy is not static. It's constantly evolving.
Hmm.
But those core principles, critical thinking, problem solving, communication, collaboration, creativity, those are always going to be important.
It's a foundation.
Sure. Exactly. And those are the skills that are going to help people thrive, not just in the digital world, but in the world, period.
Yeah, and as we navigate this crazy, ever-changing digital world, let's remember to be curious, to be ethical, and to believe in the power of technology to do good.
I love that because it really is powerful. And the more we learn and share and explore, the more we can use that power to make a real difference.
Absolutely. So keep learning, keep exploring, and keep those digital minds engaged.